Hey everybody, how's it going? In this video I want to show you how you can set up winning Etsy listings that will actually be shown on Etsy the way I do it myself. Because as you might know, a lot of the Etsy listings, and I think most of them, will never be shown to anyone. They simply have 0 views, and there are a couple of things that we need to consider when creating a listing, because this is really what matters when it comes to search visibility and actually making sales. Okay, so let's dive right in. As you can see, I already clicked on new listing. And the first tab is for photo and video upload. You can upload up to 20 photos and 2 videos. I think it's way too much. You don't need to upload 20 photos and 2 videos. Personally, I would recommend using 10 photos and 1 video if you really want to make sure that it's being displayed. This is for me at least the, let's say, golden formula when it comes to photo and video upload. Of course, the more the better, but you don't need to waste 20 photos and 2 videos if there are no views at all. So basically start with 10. In order to make sure that you can really keep track of what you need to do and what you want to do, I created this Etsy listing checklist for you guys, where you can basically see all the detailed information and how you need to do what in order to make sure that your listing is set for success on Etsy, and success in this case meaning search visibility. You always need 1 main photo, 1 hero image, which is basically the most beautiful and aesthetically pleasing image. So imagine you're scrolling through Etsy and you're looking for, let's say, a Mother's Day gift. Of course, you click on the image which is the most appealing to you. So basically make sure that you have a really good image. Okay, so what is a good image, you might be asking? For this case, I already prepared a t-shirt mockup. So basically you have different possibilities. You could either go to Etsy, search for, let's say, a t-shirt mockup if you want to create a t-shirt or poster mockup or whatever. This is possibility number 1, and of course you can do it. But from my experience, Etsy really favors original images. So basically always try to be very innovative and try to have your own style and your own photos and mockups. And this can be achieved with either AI. So in this example, I'm on Hicksfield.ai. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I'm just using it for my brands. So basically you can go to Hicksfield and type in a prompt just like this. I will put it in the description so you can use it for yourself. So we'll guide you through each section step by step and show you how I personally would do it. And in order to keep it short and informative, I won't go into detail on how I actually create the design or how I transfer the design onto the mockup, because I have separate videos on those topics. So let's pretend we want to create a t-shirt with a slogan like Mama and an established date, right? We need to figure out what kind of mockup we want to use. The first option, as I mentioned earlier, is to purchase a mockup bundle on Etsy, Creative Market or whatever. There are really good mockups available, but there's one big downside. A lot of shops actually use them, and Etsy likes more unique and original images, which makes sense because they want to have a good browsing experience. And if every mockup would look the same, it would be a bad customer experience. So basically there are 2 options that I would personally recommend. One would be utilizing AI, like here on Hicksfield. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. This is just the tool I use, but I really like it so far. So you can put in a prompt just like this. And of course I will put in the description so you can use it for yourself. I really like Hicksfield because you can use different models. In this case it's Nano Banana Pro. Yeah, you can try different prompts, try different image models to really create the overall vibe you want to achieve. Okay, so as you can see, it really looks great, and I think it's perfect for Etsy. But I have to say that Etsy also really loves individual and original work, not only for designs but also for mockups. So the third option would actually be to create photos with an iPhone, for example, on Android, whatever. So basically ordering a t-shirt just like this, like a Comfort Colors 1717, Gildan, or whatever brand you prefer. Just order a blank t-shirt or a blank poster, whatever, and create your own images. You don't need to do it like a pro, like with perfect lighting and so on. Sometimes it even works better if it has a like customer vibe to it. So you have basically different opportunities and options to use them the way you want. So basically, going back to the listing checklist here, I would always recommend, as I said before, a really great hero image, something you yourself maybe would stop for when browsing on Etsy. Then we have detail shots, which are again perfect if you have the t-shirt, the poster, whatever in your hands. You can really take great photos to make sure the customer understands how it actually looks like and maybe even feels like. And this is something you can easily do with your own photos, but of course you can also use mockups or AI images you create yourself. I think the most important thing here are the lifestyle photos. As we saw here in this image, people are actually interested in how it looks when they put it on, right? So I would always recommend to have a couple of lifestyle photos, maybe even 4 to 6, because yeah, I think this is what really sells the products. Then what is also really recommended to have is a size comparison or scale photo. For this, if you have like Photoshop skills, you can do it yourself, but for every major brand, there are also possibilities of purchasing pre-made size comparison tables. So in this case, I would actually recommend just using Etsy, Canva, or whatever tool you might stumble upon. But I can promise you that at least for the major brands, there are always size comparisons available which you can use. And if you're, for example, doing it handmade, you should also consider having a photo of how you actually package it, because yeah, this adds a nice touch to it, a personal touch, and customers really appreciate this. Okay, so in order to sum up the photo section, basically upload up to 10 photos and make sure to include all the details I just mentioned here. Also upload a video. And again, on Hixfield, as I said, I'm not affiliated with them, but you can also create video mock-up from the image you just generated. As you can see here, I have the Mama established date. Basically, I just put the design onto the t-shirt here and then uploaded, here it is. I'm not sure if you can see it. So basically, I just uploaded it to the video section of Hixfield and then said something like slow pan, slowly, fluently zooming in onto the design, no sound or text. And it will then look like something like this. It's just perfect because it really showcases the product, and yeah, it doesn't need to be long. In this case, it's 5 seconds. What you can do is also add another 5 seconds, for example, from your shop. So you can create a small, tiny video where just your logo gets animated. You could, for example, upload your logo here and then say something like animate this design, this logo, and make sure it's a perfect fit for an Etsy shop. And you could then add those to have a 10-second video, which is perfectly fine. Uploading a video is not mandatory. I would always recommend it. I would personally always go the extra mile and make sure that I put in the work, because compared to all the other sellers you might find on Etsy, most of them don't have like 10 photos and a video. And the more the better, as I said before, but I would go with at least 10 photos and 1 video. And if you do that, you're better than most of the Etsy listings, which also increases your chance of being seen on Etsy. Okay, so basically we created 10 photos and a video, and as soon as you did that, you can head back to Etsy and simply upload them here. Of course, I won't upload 10 photos now and a video, but I guess you get the point. Next up, we have then the title, which is again really important, because yeah, this is really after the image, the second most important thing which a customer would see. So basically make sure to use the most important keyword first. And in order to find out which keyword is working best with like the best search volume and the best buying intent and stuff like that, I would always use Everbee and Allura to cross-check keywords and basically use them both. If you don't have them yet or don't want to, you could also go to Google, type in keyword tool.io, And if you're looking for like a Mother's Day gift, you can also see trending keywords with their search volume. But you always need to make sure, and this is really important, to have keywords which have some kind of buying intent, because Mother's Day gift ideas, for example, could also mean that there's like, let's say, a father of small children, and this person just wants to have some ideas on how their kids maybe could create something out of paper or whatever. So not necessarily something they want to buy. And always keep in mind that something like this would also trigger people who are not interested in purchasing anything at all. For the title itself, you have 140 characters, and you always need to use the most important keyword first. I just showed you how you can use it with Google. I personally would always use an Etsy tool such as Allura or Everbee, because they really focus on Etsy and everything which is related to it. So it makes total sense to use a tool like this. Let's say if you want to sell this mama t-shirt as a Mother's Day gift, I would then go to Allura or Everbee and search for the search volume, the competition, conversion rate, and the score. So basically, as you can see, the score with 62 is rather low. We have a big search volume, which is great, but we also have a lot of competition. So it would make sense to maybe set a filter here and see if you find something with a good score and still a very high search volume. You can see we have something like Mother's Day gift ideas, which is not that great, but we have Mother's Day presents, which I really like. We have a high score, low competition, and 35K monthly search volume, which is great. So this is something you could really consider using as your title. So basically we just filled in photo and video here, and I also select the t-shirt, which is rather simple, right? You just in this case select it like this, and it's a physical item made to order. And you can then, Mother's Day, you can then simply enter your keyword here. As you can see in the listing checklist, always use your most important keyword first. You can include material, color, and style, and the occasion or gift idea. So in this case, the Mother's Day present is already the gift idea. What you could do now is, for example, specify what the t-shirt is about, something like Mama established date t-shirt. If it's, for example, 100% cotton, you could also put it here. And as you can see, you still have a lot of characters left. I wouldn't recommend doing keyword stuffing, meaning using the same all over again, but we don't have something like this. Personalized mom gift, right? Etsy isn't complaining, and I think it's already perfectly fine like this, because Etsy wants you to shorten it anyway. But if you want to have others as well, you could do something like custom mothers, or let's say custom gift for mothers. But then you have repetition with mothers and gifts, more words, custom gift. So basically, I personally wouldn't recommend it. I used to fill 140 characters in the title, but I don't use it anymore. I try to shorten it because Etsy wants it to be shortened. And that's what I basically do. Then we have the description. And in order to have a great description, I would again use AI. You could go to Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever tool you prefer, and then type in something like this: create a professional Etsy description for this personalized mama t-shirt with established date. It's a Comfort Color 1717 t-shirt available in 10 colors. And I also used this photo right here. And as you can see, Claude did a really good job. Even in the name of the t-shirt and colors available in sizes. And this is something you should then try to figure out which sizes you want to sell and which sizes are available at all. But basically, this is a very good starting point. You also have something like care and shipping. And I would recommend setting this up once, basically once in general, and then have different variations depending on your category of your item. But basically you could, for example, use something like this for, or at least this for every single listing. And it would really help terms of conversion, and again also for the search visibility, because you include a little bit of keywords here, and even though Etsy claims that only tags and titles are relevant, at least from my experience, it doesn't harm to have some good keywords in the description as well. Okay, I already kind of touched it, but let's dive into this as well. We have number 3, the category and attributes. Always choose the most fitting main category. So basically, in this case, we did, where is it? We did women's clothing, tops, tees, t-shirts. It's a perfect fit. So this is already a subcategory. Then we should set color, size, and material attributes. But if you do print on demand and you connect it to Printify, Printful, Gelato, whatever, it would then automatically choose it for you, so you don't have to set this. What you can do is mentioning the color and sizes. Okay, this one here is really important, depending on what you actually want to sell. If it's handmade, you should label it as such. If it's print on demand, you shouldn't label it as handmade, because it would be a breach of their policies. Of course, you also need to decide whether you only want to sell it digital or as a physical product, and if it's a physical item. And again, I'm showing how it's been done for handmade, digital or physical products, especially print on demand. Those are of course made to order. Title is here, then we have the description, copy paste, as I said before. Make sure to also include your actual processing time and shipping time. You can also check this out from Printful, Printify, Gelato. They of course share all the information you need. So make sure that it's accurate, and I would recommend using more time for the processing and shipping, because being late one day would also mean that you potentially would not receive your star seller rating or your star seller badge, which is also very good when it comes to selling on Etsy and search visibility on Etsy. So as I mentioned before, you have variations here where you can basically put in all the information. If it's handmade, of course, it's what you would do. If you connect it to any of the print providers, it's what typically is being generated automatically, so you don't need to use it yourself. And I would actually recommend not to use it yourself, because if you do it and, for example, change anything like the SKU, it might not be connected to your shipping provider, which would mean that you personally would need to type in the tracking ID and stuff like that. I also wanted to briefly show the material and color section. Basically, this is not as important, but of course you should do it if you have the information. Our t-shirt is made from cotton, and that's basically it. You can search for it, as I did, or otherwise also browse through. But as you can see, nothing here is really fitting for the t-shirt, so cotton is perfectly fine. If you mainly sell it as a white t-shirt, you could also select the color as your main color, but you can also offer more colors. And again, if you have t-shirts in 10 colors, I would actually put in all the colors here, because sometimes people are searching for, let's say, copper t-shirt or maybe rainbow t-shirt or whatever, right? So definitely use this if you have the information. Size also makes sense. In this case, it's US women. Then we have the fabric pattern field, sleeve length, and other attributes. And as you can see, there's quite a few. You don't need to use every single one of them. From my perspective, again, it makes sense, and I do it because I want to excel and make sure that my listings are really shown on Etsy. And this is typically the reason why other vendors might not be showing, because they are not putting in the effort, but you do and I do. So please make sure to fill everything out. What I wanted to mention, and what is also really important to know, is the occasion and holiday. Even if you skip these, please don't, but if you skip these, at least use the occasion. So Mother's Day gift. Let's see what's best here. I'm not sure if Mother's Day... No, Mother's Day is actually no keyword here, but we could use birthday, right? And holiday. Maybe it's holiday. Yeah, it's holiday. So perfect. Again, especially birthday and Mother's Day are most likely the two peaks we have with this t-shirt. So that's why we always need to make sure to select it here under attributes. Once we did all of that, we would then come to the next point, which is writing a description. Obviously, we already wrote a description along with the title because it just made sense. But I wanted to highlight a couple of things because the description itself is also important, and you need to remember that the first 3 lines are always visible without clicking. So if we go here, you can see the title, of course, and then we have the description right here, right? So always make sure to have some nice text there, maybe 1 or 2 keywords, which is also definitely recommended. Have a hook, as I said before, something which might be appealing to your audience. And in this case, what AI already did for us is listing the exact dimensions and materials, describe care instructions and usage, mention shipping time and packaging, which is also very important because you might also get sales not only from US mainland, but also like from Hawaii or even Alaska. And people always want to know how you ship the packages. And already mentioned, weave in keywords naturally. Don't use any keyword stuffing. So it's perfectly fine. For example, let's say this t-shirt here, or even for our design, you could say this 100% cotton t-shirt is a perfect gift for Mother's Day. And then have some more information around it. Okay, next up we have the text and keywords, and arguably they are even more important than the title itself, because this is really the data Etsy is using in order to make sure that your keywords are matching what people are looking for. First rule of thumb, really important, always use all 13 tag fields. Then we have multi-word tags, which are really useful. So maybe we can come back to Allura and then go to keyword. And let's say we want to stick with the Mama t-shirt. We can take a look for the t-shirt itself. So right now we have the Mama t-shirt with 188K search volume and a really low score. But still, since this is the t-shirt we want to sell, we should definitely be using this keyword as a tag. So let me open Etsy right here. So we have the tag section here. Again, you can see 13 tags. We would use something like Mama t-shirt. But since this is really broad and not the best, we should also use different keywords, such as mom t-shirt, for example. Or we could even, again, see if we have anything related to that with a better score. This one is French, so we wouldn't use it. Soccer mom t-shirt, mommy shirt. We could also Mama established. See if this is something we could use. See a score. Announcement. No, that's not the one we are looking for. Presents for grandma. No, not really. But let me go back. Mama est t-shirt. Maybe that works better. Yeah. Well, we have 36K and a score of 74. So basically, this is something that we would also use. Mama est shirt or Mama est t-shirt. And coming back to our list here, we also would recommend using occasion tags, style tags, and again, multi-word tags. We would then have keywords like Mother's Day gift, gift for mom, personalized gift for mom, right? And what you can see here, it's limited to 20 characters. So in this case, it wouldn't fit, but maybe we can do it like this. Of course, I don't want to use all 13 here right now because it would take too much time and you want to use it as a guide. But I guess you get the idea on how to make it. So again, 13 fields, multi-words, occasion tags, style tags, and do not repeat the exact same tag as in the title. That's also something I would recommend. And to be honest, maybe for 1 or 2 main keywords, it makes sense, but don't use the exact same keywords you are using in the title. Okay, next up we have pricing and shipping. I would always recommend using free shipping because it improves your search ranking. And Etsy also has an option for customers to show only products with free shipping. I think it's really worth it, especially for high margin products. So to understand what price you want to offer in order to still have a good margin, And I would say a good margin is between at least 20% and 35%. The more the better, of course. But this is something you should definitely achieve, at least. In order to calculate it, I also created an Etsy fee calculator guide. The link is again down in the description, where you can put in all your costs. Let's say you pay $12 for a t-shirt and you pay $5 for the shipping price. You would then need at least $17.45 to break even, right? And as I said before, we want to have a margin around 30%. So we could check out if, for example, we could put the selling price for $25.95 and have a shipping of $5. In this case, without offsite ads, we would have a margin of 32%. With offsite ads, it would be significantly lower, but still, especially if it's automated, it's free money, right? So in this case, I would maybe even go higher and offer it for maybe this or maybe even this. Again, use this link to really make sure that all your calculation is adding up. I also included the listing fee, transaction fee, payment processing, so you really got all the numbers and understand how you need to price your product. Then we have the shipping profile. So maybe we should open up the shipping tab right here. So basically what I typically do is to have a really big gap for the processing time, usually around 2 to 6 days, depending on what kind of product I sell. So in this case, there's also photos included. And from my experience, it usually takes time to receive photos if they don't upload it right away. And if they upload it, they usually want to see some kind of proof. So it's really a lot of back and forth. And therefore I have a window of 2 to 6 days. The weekends are excluded. Then you have to select the shipping option. I have a separate video for this as well, so I won't go into detail here. Just wanted to show how you can set it up or select it, because obviously you can change or edit it here, right? So you have all the different models here. Then you have to set up the delivery time and processing time, as I mentioned before. Once again, I have 2 to 6 days, meaning a customer would see that the earliest day of arrival is depending on the processing profile, let's say 2 days, and shipping also 2 days would be 4 days in advance. So if a customer clicks on your page, let me check where I can find it here, they would then see when they would receive it, right? Okay, and you should also define your return policy. Once again, I have a separate video where you can watch it if you need to for pricing and shipping. Okay, 78%. We are now at inventory and variations, and we need to enter our quantity in stock as well as the variations and the SKUs. So basically, if you go with print on demand and you select, let's say, Gelato, Printify, Printful, and connect all your products with them, you automatically receive all these information. So if you go to, let's say, Gelato, create a product and then connect it to your store, to your Etsy store, it will automatically fill in all the details here, like the quantity, the variations, and the SKUs. So you don't need to touch anything. And I would also recommend not touching anything, especially the SKUs, because otherwise, and I mentioned this before, you have no tracking for this order and you need to do it manually. So don't ever touch the SKU unless you're told otherwise by Gelato, Printify, Printful, or whatever other vendor you're using. So basically for print on demand, it's rather easy. You don't have to do anything at all if you connect them right away. If you're doing digital or handmade, of course, you need to do it yourself. Last but not least, we have the review and publish button. Last but not least, we have review and publish. And I would also, last but not least, we have review and publish. I would recommend doing that because it really makes sense to preview your listing both on desktop and mobile, just to see if anything is cut off or if the design looks off. So this is really your chance to make sure everything is the way you want it to be. There might be typos in your title, in your description, both from you, from AI, whatever tool you use. So also make sure to proofread everything. And once again, you know that Etsy is a marketplace where people are browsing. Sometimes they don't even know what they are browsing for. And it's your job to have a hero image, like a thumbnail, which really is like eye catcher, right? So make sure you have a really good first image. Activate the listing. Don't leave it as a draft. So that's rather easy. You just, of course, if you don't want to publish it right now, you can save as draft. Otherwise, you hit on publish. And one final tip is to share your link. Either if you have a social media profile, of course, you can put it out everywhere. But what I typically also use is the tool from Allura, which automatically generates a pin with all your information and shares it directly on Pinterest. Okay, now we are sitting at 100%. The listing is active. I know it's been a long video with a lot of information. I try to keep it short and informative. So if you have any questions around it, please feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always happy to help. Yeah, but that's the guide you can watch over and over again for creating your listings. After you did it a couple of times, I'm sure you can do it without. But I really hope that this video was helpful so you better understand how I personally generate my listings on Etsy.